Hi guys, this is Nadia from Imbali Crafts, and today I want to show you how to create this seed bead jungle pendant and sun catcher. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because I upload new stuff on a regular basis. I quite often make PDF tutorials for the videos I put up on here. They also come with kits. I have all sorts of gemstones, square half round wire and beads and all sorts of nice goodies on my website, so I will pop a link below and you can take a gander over and see if there's anything you fancy. Last but not least, we have an awesome wire wrap group, which I will also pop a link below. So take a look and come and join us. Right, let's get started. So I'm going to demonstrate to you on some shorter sections of wire. Obviously, you need a lot more wire than I'm going to use here to show you. It's just easier to show you the weave on a small piece. So we're going to take our weaving wire, fold it in half, and we're going to wrap it around the base wire once before picking up a second wire, wrap it around wire 1 and 2, then slot it in between wire 1 and 2, bring in a third wire, wrap it around wire 2 and 3, and bring it in between wire 2 and 3, bring in a fourth wire, wrap it around wire 3 and 4, bring it in between wire 2 and 3, and then the fifth wire. So we're going to wrap it around 4 and 5, and we're going to bring the weaving wire in between wire 2 and 3 and wrap it around wire 3 and 4 before bringing it down in between wire 1 and 2 and wrapping it around wire 2 and 3, and then lastly wrapping it around wire 1 and 2. And then we're going to go around the base wire 5 times, and this is called the cornrow weave, or at least that's what I call it. And then we're going to repeat this exact same procedure, except that for the next set it is only with the 4 wires. We're only going to go around the top 5th wire every 4 revolutions of this. So we're going to go around again wire 1 and 2, then around wire 2 and 3, and then around wire 3 and 4, and we're not going up to the top, we are going to go back down. So it means in between wire 1 and 2, it's not going, and then wrap it around wire 2 and 3, and then going back down around wire 1 and 2, and then we start with our 5 wraps around the base, and then we're going to repeat this. There's a little inset on the left here that shows you exactly how the pattern looks. So once that's done, we've got a full length. I think I've done about 11 or so sets of the weave. We're going to remove the outer base wires, and we're going to be left with just 2 wires on the bottom, and this is so that we get the sort of ray sun effect on the outside. And the wire is actually quite strong, and stronger than you think. So and the thicker weaving wire you use, obviously the stronger the rays will be. So what I'm doing here is just shape the initial pendant, so, or sun catcher, whatever you like it to be. I decided for this I want it to be sort of an oval shape, but obviously you can do any shape you want. You can make it any size you want as well. Obviously, just remember, if you're going to make it larger, step up the gauges by 1 size, just to make it a bit more sturdy. Obviously, the bigger it is, the more structure it needs. So I'm shaping it here, and I am just using my fingers to kind of get the initial shape right, and then I'm bending out the outermost wires, and the 2 innermost wires are going to be used to create the bail. So I'm using my pliers here, and just below the weave I'm going to put a bend in it, and I'm going to do the same on the other side, and I'll push the weave in a little bit before I bend, just to make sure it's all nice and tight. And then I'm going to line these 2 wires up so that they are parallel to each other, and this is sort of the beginning for the bail. So there you go, straighten out a bit, and then kind of close off the pendant sun catcher, and straighten out the wires. There you go. It's kind of what it looks like. So the next step is to straighten out the wires a bit more here, is to kind of join the two sides, and I'm going to use some leftover wire. If you've got enough wire left over from the weave, you can continue on to the bail with that. I didn't have enough, so I had to add in, I think, another section. So all I'm doing here is I am joining the two innermost wires, or actually all four of them. I can't really see without my glasses on. So you can either join just a two, but four is better, obviously, because there's more structure to it. And all I'm doing here is a simple figure of 8 weave around both of them. And then I'm going to shape the two innermost wires, and these are going to be my bell. So obviously, again, you don't need to do this like that. You can just have it a straight weave. You don't have to do the bell like that if you just want it to be a sun catcher. So you can just do a straight weave. So I'm shaping this into a kind of navette shape or marquee shape, depending on where you're from. I call it both, depending on the mood. And then I'm going to bend the wires at the top so that they are parallel once again, and this is kind of the initial shape. So bring my pliers in and kind of take your time with that, and just make sure that both sides are equal. So next I'm taking a fresh piece of wire if your length isn't enough that you have left over, and all I'm doing here is I'm wrapping around one side twice before I'm crossing over to the other side, or I think I'm wrapping it 3 times. So wrap it 3 times. The more wraps you put on each side, the more open the weave will be on the inside. So it'll be a tighter weave if you only wrap twice, and it'll be a very loose weave if you do, say, 5 wraps on one side, and then you cross over to the other side and do 5 wraps there, and so forth. Just make sure that you don't pull too hard. When you get towards the center, it can get a little bit slippy because obviously it narrows down. So we continue on, and here I'm going to show you what I mean by the slippy bits, because obviously the wire narrows down again towards the top. The weaving wire has a tendency to slip up. So what I do here is on each side, when I'm wrapping, 2 wraps are important so that the wire has something to grip on. I put my thumb or my nail, anything to hold the wire in place, and then I move over to the other side and very gently do my wrap. So it's really important not to pull too tight, otherwise it will just distort the shape. So once we get to the end, I'm just kind of tying the 2 legs together and just finishing off with the same weave that I started on. So just keep wrapping once and twice around one wire before moving to the other side, and then twice around the next wire. And that's what the bell looks like. So really easy and a nice practice sort of design. And the next step is to shape it. Some people like to use a tool for that. I think this is easy enough to shape with your fingers if you've got more control over how to shape the actual bell. And I'm kind of making sure that it's balanced and that the sort of bottom half of the pendant is in line with the midpoint, if that makes sense. So I'm feeding the legs through the center, and I'm just going to wrap these round and on each side of the bell once, just to give it a bit of structure, like so, and this will be enough to hold it in place. Same on the other side. So just fold it over and just try not to bend it over a ray or whichever we want to call it, so that it don't distort. That's what it looks like. So next, going to trim off those ends, and just make sure you trim them in such a way that they don't stick out. So usually I wrap the 0.4 wire around something else to tuck it away so it doesn't get stuck on clothing. And we're going to be using the structural wires that are left over to create a kind of backing for our shrub to be attached to. So I'm creating the loop here, and as I always do with my wire ends, I use my roundness pliers and I apply a little bit of pressure. That will narrow down the tips of the wire, and as I press, I also rotate. And this will give the sort of tapered look at the end. And then I'm kind of arranging the curls whichever way I want to be. It's not too important where and how, because obviously these are going to be our backing. So not too fast on where they go, but obviously still try and make them as neat as possible. So we're going to do the same with the other side. So remember to thin out your wire with your pliers. And obviously, you know, you can cut these off if you want to, but then you wouldn't have any structure to attach your vines to, so you need to have a little bit of something to curl, so that you have a space where you can add the bush or the shrubbery that we're going to add just now. So very gently rotate this, and you can see I grab the wire on different areas just so that I have better traction, and I can rotate them in. So once I'm satisfied with the shape, I'm going to cut another piece of weaving wire, which is 0.4, which is 26 gauge. And I'm going to give these two wires a little bit more structure. And this is going to be done by a simple figure of 8 weave. So the way this works is I wrap the weaving wire once or twice around one wire, like so. And then I'm going to move across to the wire on the other side, and I repeat myself there, wrap it around twice before coming back to the other side. This is a really simple weave, and great if you're a beginner and you haven't done any weaving before, to kind of learn the control of wire and the tension and just how generally weaving feels. So this is just called a very simple figure of 8 weave, and we're going to carry on with this until we reach the end, like so. So kind of flays out a bit, and this is enough to give it a little bit of structure. So next it's time to make the vines. So I really enjoy doing this. I've done whole trees with that. It's a lot of fun. And you need a piece of 0.4 26 gauge wire, and we're going to pick up, to begin with, 7 beads. I think I've only picked up 3 here. So it depends. Oh, sorry, no, it's 3 beads to begin with. This is the finest point of the sort of vine. So we're starting off with 3 beads in the middle, and then we're going to give it about 5 twists, and then we're going to pick up more beads. And in this instance, I think it's another 3. So we're going to put 3 beads on either side of the initial twist. And just make sure to bring the wire in as closely to the stem as you can, and be very careful when you're twisting, because at this point, if you over twist, the wires break really easily under tension. But just make sure it's as neat and tidy as possible. So then we're going to give them another 5 twists, and we're going to pick up another 3 beads, and we are going to, it's 4 in this instance, so each new set of leaves we're going to create picks up another bead. So I'm starting with 3, and then it's 4, and then it's 5, and then it's 6. And obviously the more beads you're going to add, the bigger the vine itself. And obviously I'm putting 5 twists in this here, but you can make the vine much shorter and stockier if you maybe put only 3 twists in between each leaf. So depending on how thick or long you want it to be, you can sort of modify the way this looks, and make it to your liking. So I had a sort of a mixture of long vines with lots of leaves, and then I had short vines with lots of weaves, and just to make it a little bit more of a variant, I change it up a bit. You'll see just now. So there's some short ones, and just so that it's more of a sort of shrubbery effect, I wanted different sized beads. So you probably create about 5 long ones and 5 short ones, and then maybe 3 really short ones. And the next step is to obviously combine them all together. So I'm starting with the longish ones, and I am grabbing about 3 of them and giving them a quick twist, not too much, because we're going to add more. So picking up the shorter ones and giving those a bit of a twist as well. I actually really enjoy this technique because it's quite rewarding when it comes together. It looks quite nice once you have put these all together. So I've twisted 3 of them, and then I'm going to pick up the really small ones and do the same thing again. Pull these all together and give these a little bit of a twist. There you go. You can see I've got quite a few of them, and obviously, as I said earlier, you know, you can decide. You can also make flowers with this. I've only made leaves here, but you can also create flowers if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be just leaves, different color seed beads. And once you're satisfied with the amount, we're going to pick up all of the little branches we've just created and give these a little twist. You can see here I separate out 2 halves of the wire to get more of a grip before I twist. And then you can kind of arrange the leaves to your liking, spread them out a bit before we're going to be attaching them to the actual pendant. And as I said earlier, you can add more if you wanted to, take some out, make them shorter, make them longer, entirely up to you. Right, next step is we're going to be adding these to the actual pendants. Obviously there's a lot of wires there, so we're going to get rid of some. So the way I do this is to bring some of the wires up to the front, because obviously you want to reduce snag risk, and when you cut wires there's always a snag risk, so I always tend to put them where I find there's the least sort of risk of them getting stuck on anything. So bring them to the front, pull them through, and they are now kind of hidden in the foliage. So now I'm going to trim them off with my fine tipped pliers. These are Tronics, by the way, which are great for reaching into areas that are hard to get to. Fine tip. So anything that you have that has got a fine tip like that, I think is quite an essential tool once you get going with your weaving a little bit. So quite useful. So I've got these trimmed off, and I've got these remaining wires left over, which we're going to be using to attach this to the frame. So I've taken the wire through, and we're going to be attaching these here, there, and everywhere you can find a space to the frame. And obviously remember to bring them through to the front to tuck away loose wires. So next we've got the frame wires left over. So if you wanted to, you can create a little swirl design on the side. For whatever reason here, I can't remember why, I decided to just trim these off. So I made a little swirl at the top and brought it all the way around to make sure that the end sort of points towards the foliage, and trim off the end. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. I always tend to go kind of clockwise into the frame so that the wire ending points towards the middle. But obviously, as I said, you can go anti-clockwise, different shapes, down the bottom, wherever you like. So that's what it looks like, and I'm going to finish this off with my pair of round nose pliers. And I always squeeze the end and rotate this in, and just make sure you tuck it away nicely. And do the same on the other side. Roll it in. And then that's what it looks like. So arrange them to your liking. There you go. That's what it looks like so far. So next is the remaining wires at the back. Going to be trimming these off. So remember, as closely to the end as possible so they don't get hooked on anything. And that's the whole project complete. So the last thing to do here is to run a section of beads across the top of the bale. You can use anything you like, copper beads or gemstones. I have used seed beads in this instance because I thought they look quite nice. And yeah, that's the whole thing finished. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe and visit me on any of my social media. I've got Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok. My wire wrap group, if you want any artist support, is called Wire Wrappers and Metalsmiths Worldwide. We often do lots of challenges. It's a fun little group, and people there are awesome, if I may say so myself. Last but not least, visit my website for square wire, half round wire kits, PDF tutorials, gemstones, whatever you like. So I'll pop a link in the description and you can take a gander and have a look. And that's it for me, and see you soon.